Hello, everybody. It's Sunday night. The name of the show is Intuitive Inc., and I am Servet Hassan. And I don't doubt for a second we've got a really great show tonight. Not doubting it in the least. Haha, you'll know why I'm laughing. It's Ann Tucker who's on the line with me today, and she is not only a recognized speaker, she's addressed audiences all around the world on topics of leadership, personal transformation, decision making, and my favorite, the psychology of doubt. She has written a book called Undoubtedly Awesome. The subtitle is Your Own Personal Roadmap from Doubt to Flow, and I read it and it works. It's true. It's a roadmap. She's given you kind of a guide out because we fear our decisions and then we don't make them, or we think we made the wrong ones, and it's all this fear and anxiety that gets wrapped around into it, and then those little things weasel their way into our thoughts, and we're either paralyzed and don't do anything, or we do the wrong thing. So anyway, Ann Tucker is on the line with us now, and I'm excited because it's going to be really an interesting conversation. Hello and welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. It's a Sunday night. You have a life, I assume. You look like you do, and I
most of the time, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, I read little bits about it, like a little story about your stepson, and when he was saying, "What if this would happen?" So kind of, when you read a book, I've written 3 books for Llewellyn Worldwide Publisher. People are going to pick up stuff about you from anything you write, no matter what you do. Anyway, this is a fascinating topic. I know you're also the founder of something called Wisdom Soup, which is actually an online social learning community, which this part I like too. It speeds up serendipity by connecting people with similar interests in spirituality and personal growth. That is so interesting to me. How did this all start, Ann? Where did this come about, and why did you get into the whole business of doubt to start with?
Yeah, well, the 2 things is, Wisdom Soup and how that evolved, and where the book came, where Undoubtedly Awesome came from. It's all really part of my journey, and that's, you talk about, in the book, people can't help but get to know about you because you talk about yourself. And our journey and the work that we do, there's always that autobiographical, element to it, autobiographical, because it is, as we grow, we start to share those things that we've learned. And, the development of the book happened, through the work that I was doing, and I started to see these patterns, and then I started to use those in my work, and it became clearer and clearer. And then as I started to grow through my own spiritual journey, that became the path that I went through, became Wisdom Soup. So it was looking at, as I was really trying to figure out what was blocking me. And that was really the big question I had, is I feel blocked, and what is it? So I started just throwing myself into the process, but the biggest thing I came across was that it was really, really hard to figure out where to start. When I first Googled Law of Attraction, there was 88 million results. That's no joke. 88 million.
Was this before or after The Secret? Was this because
this is after The Secret, right?
Because that's been
Secret,
10
years.
Been so
many.
Yeah, there wouldn't have been, but that started a whole other avalanche. So
did it ever? But so it's just knowing where to start as you're interested in, becoming connected to your own intuition, and knowing what the path is. How do you get there? And so as I weaved my own process and figured out where to go, I just realized so many people that I met, and I experienced this too, is you find a teacher and you work with them, and then we're all waiting to be guided. You bump onto that next teacher, and it's like we're like hermit crabs, and we sort of bump into the next shell, and we move into that shell, and you bump into the next shell, and there's no strategic path to it, right? It's really hard to know if we're making progress. So with Wisdom Soup, what I've done is I've laid out, I call it the 5-step process to speed up serendipity, and it unfolds over 12 months. And it takes that same process that would happen organically, but it does it in a way that's strategic, that's leading. So one concept builds into the next, that builds into the next. And I'm bringing in the very best teachers in each subject. So as you're starting out, you're working on developing an energy clearing process. Next, you're working on developing your intentions. Then you're starting to look into your beliefs. Then we're moving into, you see, it just goes like that, each step and each step. And by the time you get to the end of 12 months, wow, have you made progress?
Wow, that's
interesting. That's what Wisdom Soup is.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, how do people find it if they want to, the listeners out there? What's the website?
It's wisdomsoup.com. wisdomsoup.com. And so we're having a lot of fun with it. Actually, we had our call with one of the teachers on the site. Her name is Bonnie Lonsbury. She wrote the map. And so we're working on intentions right now. So we had a call with her, and everybody was sharing their best practices around writing their intentions and how to write them in a way that's really powerful. So it's really, it's a lot of fun. So it's a really great community as well.
Right. Okay. That's wisdomsoup.com for anybody out there that's interested. And then again, the name of the book is Undoubtedly Awesome. So was this a direct product of the knowledge you gained and what you learned from Wisdom Soup, or did which came, the chicken or the egg? Which came first?
Undoubtedly Awesome, the book actually came first. Because originally what happened is I was a leadership consultant. I was working for a fairly big firm, and we left, my partner and I left, and we started our own firm, and but we needed our own methodology. And so I took the work that I'd been doing with decision making. I used to be a negotiator, so decision making was always my focus. And I was working with these executives and helping them to better understand themselves and how they worked. But here's the thing that's amazing is when you're doing coaching, you're working with these people, you start out, the way it works is you'll do an interview with them and you find out about their view of themselves, their strengths, their weaknesses, and then you go and talk to everybody they know and you find out everybody else's perspective of their strengths and their weaknesses. So you get this 360 view of a person. And then you take that understanding of how which strengths pair with which weaknesses and how it affects others, and then you do that over and over and over and over again for a bunch of different people. And what you get at the end of it is this understanding of patterns that start to emerge, right? And it became this model, it became this understanding. And to me, I realized that what I was actually looking at was soul type. What I was looking at is things that you don't develop over time. I was looking at things that you are born with. And I started to see these same patterns, these same behaviors in my own children when they were born, right? You see that how they make choices and how they're creative in the world is something that they come in with. And it becomes important in terms of how they express themselves in the world, how they're creative in the world, where their power is, right? How can they make their creative statement in a way that's going to be most fulfilling for them? So that's really where the model came from. Is I developed it working with people as a leadership coach, and then refined it using it in daily practice over and over and over again, and it eventually became this book.
Right. Okay. So was that Gray Matter Partners? Does that still exist? Is that you?
It does still exist. I have stepped away from Gray Matter to focus more full time on Wisdom Soup and my book, Undoubtedly Awesome. So about a year ago, I took the plunge. It was a big decision. And talk about decisions,
I was
right?
That
was a big one.
That's a big one. See, that's the type of decision that people have the most trouble with too, because that brings up all the stuff from when you were a kid. I'm not good enough. I can't do that and still make money. It's how am I going to be that without, giving up that? And if I do, what if I fail? And I need the steady corporate job because otherwise, the paycheck and what am I going to do? And it's that's where people, and then they get to be about, 65 or 70 and they're like, what the heck? And usually it revolves around some kind of lack within themselves. Like they don't have the confidence or the it's not necessarily that, it's the self-worth part of them. Yeah. That they know they can make that happen. Because one of the things you say, and you say it in your book several times, is that you need to get in the flow. And when you get in the flow, it becomes almost a foregone conclusion. And that's why people have trouble, I think, with the law of attraction. I want to get your take on this, is because, you can do affirmations and make vision boards galore and all that kind of stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. But unless you believe it to the core of your being, it's not going to happen. And that means it's just a knowingness. It is a foregone conclusion, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting, when we talk about, what are we manifesting for ourselves in the world? Because whether or not we're doing it consciously, our thoughts are creating our reality, so we are all manifestors. It's just, are you choosing what you're manifesting, right? And so what are you believing, and what are you creating for yourself? And when you're trying to create, and when you become aware of yourself as a creator, and then you start thinking about, okay, I want to manifest, I want to change something, I want something to be different about my life. And, it's okay, how do I get into that feeling of flow where it feels like the universe is working with me, where things are working in my favor, where it's coming easily. And I think it's interesting, this idea of flow, and what does it mean? And, I've heard it defined as, somebody has defined it as it being when you lose track of time, right? When you're working on something and you lose all track of time and you're just sort of so engrossed in what you're doing. And I think that's one aspect of it. But the broader aspect, I think, is the absence of resistance, is when you're working on something or you're moving in a direction and you're not experiencing resistance in your path. And to me, resistance is fear and doubt. So when you can remove fear and doubt from the equation, when you can limit how much doubt you're experiencing, then it's much easier to stay in flow. It's much easier to be working with the natural direction where the universe wants you to go.
Well, exactly. You're not rowing your boat up a stream. It's a difference, I think, too, because I tell people, struggle. You need effort. You have to be doing, you have to take action, but struggle is effort laced with emotion. You're resisting something. It's laced with them. It's got
very well said.
So, it's the same thing. When you're in the flow, you're efforting, you're doing, but your actions are not laced with negative emotions or any kind of emotions, actually. And that's when you lose sense of time. So how do you tell people, or, I could talk to you for like 6 hours, but I'm going to open the lines in about 15 minutes, halfway through, so people can call in too. But we've so much to talk about, but just want to touch on, before we talk about the soul types, how do you tell people to deal with fear and anxiety? How do they overcome that doubt part of, doubt, that fear that comes in?
The fear, and fear is huge for all of us. And honestly, so it's going to depend, how you're experiencing fear is going to be dependent on a couple different things. And fear in general comes from ambiguity, from what we don't know and how comfortable we are with what we don't know. And the truth is, in any choice that you make, regardless of what it is, whether it be what you have for breakfast or it be what career you're going to take or what, who you marry or whatever it's going to be, big choices, small choices, it is impossible for you to know absolutely everything that there is to know about that choice. So when you go out and you buy a new car, you can do all the research under the sun and try to limit your ambiguity and bring it down to zero. But there's no possible way for you to do that, because you'd have to know every single thing about every person that worked on the production line of that car, right? The amount of depth there is to know everything. It's impossible. So it really is about, how do you manage ambiguity? How do you understand that ambiguity is present, and your job is not to eliminate it. Your job is to get to a place where you feel good about the decision without knowing everything. So it's limiting your feeling of ambiguity. The ambiguity is going to be there one way or the other. No way around that. Doesn't matter how much more time you spend in research. It is truly about how you feel. And so the question then becomes, how do you get to a place where you can feel good about the choice that you're making? And to do that, it has a whole lot less to do with what you're choosing and a whole lot more to do with how you're choosing it, with the process. And that's, I think, to me, that's the real departure from what we usually expect. most of the time we think, and I think we're really hard on ourselves, we think that there's one right answer. We head into a decision, we head into a big choice, and we think, oh my gosh, if I don't pick the right thing, if I'm not smart enough or careful enough or good enough or whatever it is, I'm going to pick the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. And the truth is that, if you've narrowed it down to your sort of top 3 options, any one of those is going to have an equal choice of making you happy. And every single thing has good or bad things about it, just like every person has strengths or weaknesses. There's going to be good or bad things about each thing that you could choose. And the thing that's going to make the difference as to whether or not your choice is going to be successful is going to be whether or not you feel good about it. And so, in other words, it's the degree to which you have fully committed your creative power, your energy, fully committed your emotion in the direction of the thing that you've chosen. Or are you leaning back? Are you in fear? Are you in doubt? Are you pulling away? Right? Mm-hmm. And when you're doing that, when you're leaning out of your decision, your energy is going in all these other directions. They're thinking, oh my gosh, I should have bought that other pair of pants. And oh my gosh, right. I did the wrong thing. And when you're doing that, you're actually taking energy away from the thing you chose, which makes it less successful. Mm-hmm. So it really is, when you get down to experiencing that fear of understanding, that we're searching, we have this idea that we have to find the right thing, understanding that's actually not the problem, is that you're perfectly capable of finding a good solution. The place to focus in is on your process of looking at how you're choosing the thing that you choose. And that gets down to soul type. And that gets down to the process that's natural to you, your own natural innate process. You're using it right now, whether you know it or not, right? Mm-hmm. You already have a decision process. It's just we're unaware of it. And sometimes it works great for us. Most of your decisions you probably feel great about. But there's those times when it doesn't work out so good. There's times when you feel bad about a decision.
Right.
And that's when your process goes awry.
Because I certainly know people who can make excellent decisions and choices when it comes to their career work, and then they pick these people to get in relationships with, and I'm like, what? What is okay? So is there more than one soul? Could you be I read the book, so I'm obviously an expressive soul. But I could be a coaching soul. I could be another one or something. But I'm mostly an expressive soul. So how do you how do you deal with that? Because how do you explain when people can make really good decisions in one area and then totally fall apart in another?
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned that you're an expressive soul, and when you look at the different soul types, all of us have one native soul type, the one that we're born with, and these are the skills, and each soul type brings certain gifts. Mm-hmm. So you, as an expressive, you have this ability to be a voice for other people, right? To speak the truth for other people. It's sort of like you feel you have this direct connection to your emotions, and you're able to communicate that in a way that's persuasive and influential, which makes you a perfect radio host.
Yeah.
But you probably also have in your life had to bend yourself and to be flexible, and we can learn the skills of other soul types. So there may be one or two others. Most of us have one or two other soul types that we can read and look and say, oh yeah, I can do that. I do that too sometimes. But there's one that's your natural. And it indicates that you're a flexible person if you can adopt the skills of other soul types. Mm-hmm. But when you look at it, and the important thing about knowing what your native soul type is it shows you these are the skills that you need to express in your life in order to feel fulfilled. This is where your true power lies. So, but in terms of once you know this about yourself, and why is it that some people, like you said, that the people who just constantly stick in these patterns of making these bad choices, and that has to do with, there's layers and layers to how we make choices. But when they're asking themselves the wrong questions, maybe they have, belief systems that they're working through. They have, patterns from their childhood that they're playing out, and making those negative choices. And sometimes we do. And there are times where, if you have, for example, if there's certain areas of your life where you have an excessive amount of fear. So it could be around your finances, your health, or the fear of being abandoned. And these are fears that can come up from childhood. And when you have an excessive amount of fear in an area, it can actually change how you make decisions. And you can switch into a much more conservative style of decision where you're really just looking for you want to stay out of the decision as long as you can. You're just looking for security. You're just looking for some stability because it's such a scary thing. And that can pull you completely out of your natural soul type and put you into this really different mind frame. So that certainly does happen. But like everything, there's layers to how people behave.
Well, it's very, that's why I said we could be on the phone for 6 hours with this.
Yeah.
But, so we can only touch on it. But they can buy the book, Undoubtedly Awesome, because everybody is actually undoubtedly
Absolutely.
awesome, which I truly believe, because part of what my goal is to teach people to be their true authentic selves, because that's when you do get in the flow. And that's when things happen effortlessly without any, One of the things I love, too, is you talked about, so once you pick your soul type, then you're going to use it with all the other things. Like you talk about your difference engine, which is how you compare things, and that's one way of making decisions, feeling your way to a decision. You talked about that. One of the things I love that you talked about, though, is there's, make the decision and then give up the alternatives. And then you say something a lot of people don't say, burn your bridges. And you had a little story about Burmese history about some troops going over a bridge, and he most people don't. Now, do you believe that?
Oh, absolutely. And it's really interesting. I think when people think about decision making, they think it's a thing that happens. It basically, they think that it's pretty much just a process of going through evaluating your alternatives and then making a choice. And they think that decision making it's just this investigation of looking at what you can choose and then the choice itself. And the truth is that's only 1/3 of the process of making a decision. And it's not even the most important third, honestly. It's sort of the necessary beginnings, but it's just the beginning of making a decision. But most people get to that part. They said, okay, I've chosen, I've turned left instead of right, or I handed over my credit card or whatever it is, and boom, I'm done. I've made my choice. But in order to really complete a decision, in order to feel happy with your decision, and that's the big thing, is do you want to feel happy with your decision? Do you feel content? Then you have to take these additional 2 steps. And one is that you got to give up your alternative. So in other words, if you are shopping for that perfect pair of black pants and you bought 3 and you're planning on keeping 1, well, you can't keep the other 2 around just in case. You've got to give up those other alternatives. And there's all kinds of studies to support this that show, when you're still entertaining different options, what ends up happening is that you, every time you go into that comparison mode, and you mentioned the difference in we learn and understand things by comparing them. And when you're comparing your options, say you've got one thing that you think you like best and you're comparing it against all these other choices. And every time you come back to that original option and you compare it, you look at its benefits. And benefits have you have an emotional feeling towards them. You feel, ooh, I love that, right? But every time you do it, it's like hearing a joke for the second time, the third time, the fourth time, and it starts to become less funny. So the more that you stick in that comparison mode, the benefits that once you really love, they start losing their emotional punch. And it starts to become harder and harder and harder to set the thing you like best apart from all the new things that you're bringing in, that you're seeing for the first time. So if you don't give up your alternatives, essentially you're limiting the degree to which you're able to become emotionally attached to the thing that you chose. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. You're talking, it reminded me of an interview I saw 100 years ago, and I'm not a big fan of Rosie O'Donnell, but I remember what she said. Yeah, she's funny though. I mean, she's had her moments, but she said in an interview years ago, like 20 years ago, she said, I'm successful because I didn't have any other choice. she said, I had no backup plan, so I totally committed, There was no plan B, with the corporate job or the corporate America, which is what stops people. And to be honest with you, my career in writing really took off when I couldn't get another corporate job.
Yeah.
When it
honestly,
somehow or another it dried up, or I got fired too many times, or I was not good at what I did. I mean, or it just they weren't out there, or maybe I aged myself out of it. They were getting younger kids for half as much money, whatever it was. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden it was like, oh, I've got to make this work. I don't have a choice. You know what I mean? So that makes a lot of sense to me. It really does. And and
it's how much of that energy how much of your creative power are you committed to?
Exactly.
So there's that step that's giving up your alternatives, and then that last one you mentioned is burning your bridges, and that's that part, like what Rosie O'Donnell said, which is that once you've committed, you're fully committed, and you've removed any option that you have to turn around and go back. So if you've bought that pair of pants, take the tags off, right? You can't return. There's no prenuptial agreement. There's no exit clause. There's, you know what I mean? There's no way out.
No. And because everyone says, oh, don't burn your bridges. And I'm thinking, well, I have.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I really have. And I they've always said that. They've said it about everything, not just work, but with people and relationships, and like, oh, why do you just not?
Yeah.
Why don't you just try to be friends? Why do you just and I was like, it's just easier for me, I don't need that. I move on. I move forward. So if the bridge burned, I'm like, okay, well, sorry.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think it gets to that point that we're all of us are energy, and we create with our energy. And where are you going to focus it? How much of your energy are you going to put in the direction you're trying to create? And the more paths you leave open for yourself, that's the more places your energy is going. So if you've left yourself 2 or 3 or 4 options, you're dividing your energy by 4. So your creation is just not going to be as powerful.
Right.
So whereas if you've limited all of your options to one, if you really, and obviously you need to be the judgment that you have about making a choice, that's a whole other book. Well, but you need to be careful about how you make this choice.
Exactly.
But once you do, then if you're fully committed to it, you really are putting all of yourself into it. And that's a lot of energy. That's a lot of creative power.
Yeah, but that's what gives it to me, what I associate, my analogy is, it's like going to the airport. If you're saying to the universe, hey, give me a ticket. I don't like my life. I'd love to have a ticket somewhere. Just get me out of this life because I don't want it anymore. Give me a ticket. Well, just like going to the airport, the guy's going to say, well, when you know where you want to go, come back.
Right.
Or you can bitch enough, like I can, and they'll say, okay, lady, let me just give you a ticket to there, and then you take it and you go, and then 6 years or 16 years or 60 years later, you go, how'd I get here? Well, you didn't know where you were going, and so that's kind of how I look at it. Anyway, we are going to open up the lines for callers, but in the meantime, I got a text asking you a question, Ann Tucker. It says, so how do you determine your soul type?
So that's actually a lot of fun, and it is. I have developed this test that you can take. Test is a terrible word. It's called a quiz, and it's 3 questions long. And 3 questions, I can tell you anybody's soul type. So if somebody wants to call in and find out their soul type online or live, I'm happy to do that. But if you're listening and you want to do this on your own, you can go to my website, undoubtedlyawesome.com, and the survey is on there. It's free. You can just go ahead and put in answer the 3 questions, and it'll tell you your soul type. It'll give you, it's a brief, explanation of what the soul type means. So there's a lot more information that's in the book, but it'll give you a little taste of what it's about. So that's free and available at undoubtedlyawesome.com. But in general, what I'm looking at when we're looking at how to figure out your soul type is so the specific thing we're focusing on with soul type is what is your
calling in. Hold
what?
On. We have the person.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello. Caller calling in. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello. There we go. Hello, are you there?
Well, I guess I'm calling in to talk to this nice lady about my soul type.
Perfect.
Oh, fantastic.
Are you the person who texted?
Yeah.
Oh, great. See, so she listened to you, Ann. You said, call in, I can do it on the air. So she did. So here you go. I'll hand her over. Go ahead.
All right, sounds good. So tell me your name.
Catherine.
Catherine, hi, nice to meet you. So
Pleasure.
I'm going to ask you 3 quick questions, and just go ahead and answer with whatever pops into mind first. So the first question is, in general, when you make a decision, you can think about you compared to your best friend or your partner or your spouse, however you want to think about it. In general, do you make decisions slower or faster than they do?
Probably faster.
Okay,
and
faster.
I don't have a spouse. I don't have a spouse, and I don't have a partner. So I've been on my own for over 30 years. So I would have to say I make decisions like that.
Pretty fast. Okay, that's good. All right, so the next question is, in general, when you're talking about, let's say you're telling a story, you run into somebody at the grocery store, are you going to tell just the facts and the details and keep it pretty efficient, or are you going to go more into the whole story about how you feel about it, how it affected you, in your feelings about it? Which one fits you better?
Oh, heavens, no, I'm just going to get to the facts.
Just the facts and details, okay.
Yep.
So last question is, which one fits you best? You're probably interested in both of these, but which one is most appealing to you? Are you more interested in planning an efficient strategy to get things done quickly, or are you more interested in getting started as quick as you can, just getting into action, getting moving?
I would say the second more so than the other, but I'm interested in both, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm sure. For sure, and both will appeal to you, but it's a kind of an either or if you had to pick. So, okay, so if you pick action. So what that tells me is your soul type is going to be all about action, basically. You're focused on how can I get from A to B as quickly as possible. And this particular gift that you're bringing, and this soul type, I call it the experimenting soul type. And the gift that you're bringing is the gift of momentum, because what you're able to do through your decision process is you're able to bring people along and make a choice very quickly and get into action with a ton of momentum. So you're able to bring that momentum into anything that you do. So rather than when you're thinking about a choice, you're going to look at it, it's going to come to you, you're going to think about it, and you're going to use your intuition. This is where your intuition would come in to be able to pick out from the data the 2 or 3 things that really are important, the 2 or 3 things that you actually have to consider. And you're able to kind of sift out the things that don't matter as much. From those 2 or 3 things, you're going to be able to figure out what's the most likely chance of success in this direction, right? What's the best path forward that I can tell right now? And then, boom, you're off and running. And you probably will have plan B in your pocket. And then as you're going to be looking left and right all the time, constantly reevaluating to see if you need to change or adapt. So you're really able to adapt on the fly. So this ability to get going really, really quickly is how you build that momentum. And the ability to change and adapt as you go, well, it makes you, like I said, a very, very adaptable. So it's in terms of creating energy, creating momentum. That's the gift that you bring, and it's a huge benefit. For most people, getting off the dime, getting started, is one of the hardest things. And each of the soul types is bringing something different in a different part of the decision process, a different part of the creative process. So the real gift that you have is for all these other soul types that are bringing in, maybe they're great problem solvers, maybe they're great planners. You're the one that can get them off their duff and get them moving. So it's a huge gift. And it makes you, like I said, very, very adaptable. You're probably able to turn on a dime when new things come up. You're able to spot them and change. Does that fit you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
You're probably also a bit of a thrill seeker, willing to do things that push you outside your box, not a huge rule follower. Are these also true?
Yes, I will take chances, and I will do different things that people won't do, especially for my age. And sometimes I like to follow the rules, but sometimes I like to make them.
Right.
Love
right.
that. Well, Anne, what would you suggest if she had difficulties making decision for this soul type? Because you do go into that in the book too.
Right. I do. Well, the thing to look at is in general, you probably are pretty effective at making decisions because you tend to plunge right in. So you don't feel a lot of doubt on the front end of your decision process. But for you, the place where you're going to experience doubt is most likely on the back end of your decision process. Is and each of the soul types, each process that we have, it comes with the strength and a weakness, and the two are related. You can't have one without the other because it is your strength that creates your weakness. So your particular strength is this idea that you are staying in this sort of constant alert mode where you're able to change on a dime, and you're staying in a comparison mode. But as I mentioned earlier in the call, that when you stay in comparison, it's harder for you to fully commit to a decision. And so you might end up feeling more dissatisfied with your choices than you might want to. There might be choices that you make where you feel like you're leaning out, always thinking that there was maybe something better you should have chosen, or there maybe was a different path that you want to try. Just not sure if it's something that you really feel committed to or not. And that's a natural expression of the gift that you have. But it can make you feel less happy, less fulfilled. So if there's a choice that really matters to you, if it's something where you really want to be committed, where you really want to really love your choice, say it's a choice in where you're going to live, then the thing to do would be to adapt by, rather than staying in that comparison mode, go through those 2 extra steps, burn your bridges and give up your alternatives. And it's going to feel very unnatural to you, but doing it is going to make you feel really much more committed, and it's going to help you to fall in love with your choice.
Interesting. Did that help? Does that help?
Yeah. Well, she was right on the money. So, yeah.
Yes.
And I like that last part, too. Burn your bridges, and what was the other one?
Give up your alternatives.
That's it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's what happens when you burn the bridge. You can't go back.
Yeah.
You don't have any other and then when you don't have any other choice, you make it work. You jump in with both feet, actually, I think, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, but at the same time, also know that that gift that you bring is something that needs to be expressed in your life, that ability to bring momentum, to get people moving, and to get things started. That is something that needs to be expressed for you to feel happy too. So that's really important to do that as well.
Thank you very much. You've been very kind, and I appreciate it, and I like the advice.
Thank you for listening.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for listening. Where are you calling from, just out of curiosity?
Arizona.
Wow, thank you for listening in Arizona. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right,
take care. Bye. That was a great call, Ann. That was really a great call. Now, see, that's how and I'm glad we could do that on the air live like that, because that's exactly what you get to in the book. And then once you can, it was a great example of what you wrote about, because you actually did. I remember reading in the very beginning in the introduction where you were writing like, I don't think I can write this book because I don't really know. And then you're like, oh my God, I figured out what it's about. And you really have done that. You've kind of given people a roadmap for, isn't that what you said? I think you were saying that, you were like unable to, like, you were in doubt, and then suddenly it hit you that the book is a roadmap tailored to, how you think, and show you where you develop the doubt and how it gets in you and how to get rid of it so that you can
absolutely
hold space. I'm reading from your book now because I found where I marked it. And how you can conquer it so that you can hold space for what you want long enough for the world to catch up. That's important. That's important because the world won't catch up in a split second, but it will if you hold that space. I liked that because that's true,
Yeah, absolutely. It takes time, and you got to stay, and that's part of that being fully committed. Right? And then if you're leaning out of the decision, leaning away from it, you're just not, it's basically you have to wait for the world to catch up, which means you've got to commit and be there and be holding it long enough for it to materialize.
Yeah, right. I had a teacher, a yogi, in India 100 years ago when I was first starting, and I asked about the the timing of manifestation. And that was
Yeah.
the whole 10 days of there is no time thing. But basically it came down to was the reason masters can manifest instantly is because it's become a natural belief. It's their core belief. It's that, in other words, they're so committed to that believing whatever that is that it will manifest instantly because they know how to do that. It's almost like it's not only a foregone conclusion, it's already like they're talking about it in the past tense. The future is already the past. Does that make sense? The future is already the past.
Oh,
and then it happens
that
really
idea, there is no time.
Yeah, exactly. And then it happens faster.
Yeah.
So
the interesting thing is I think it's actually a blessing that there is a delay for us when we're manifesting, because imagine if everything you thought you actually manifested instantly.
Exactly.
Like think about those moments where you're mad at your spouse. You don't want to manifest that. Right?
Oh, I wish you'd fall off a cliff.
Delay.
That part? Did a truck hit you? I know. I get it. Yeah. Because most of us are not in that frame of mind where we're, monitoring or meditating in that space of knowing our thoughts are creating our reality. And so we need to watch them, to monitor them, to be aware. Mm-hmm. And so it's true. And that's why, everything, it's a good point though, because really honestly, everything doesn't manifest in good or bad, because somewhere deep in your heart, you don't really mean it. Because if you did, it might actually happen. It might, Right. So even when you're in the heated argument, you still have to be careful, because
we are capable of creating realities that we don't want. That's extremely possible. Right. And it does happen.
I know, exactly. Mm-hmm. Well, we're running out of time. So, if anybody has a quick question, I told you, see, these things go so quickly when you get into it. I have a million more questions. I can probably go on and on. But if anybody has one more quick question out there, we will take another call, 949-313-8880. If you want to call in and ask Ann Tucker anything about your doubts, and don't lie to me, y'all have them. So, if there's anything about decision making, I really know you helped that last caller. I don't know. I just intuitively feel like she was probably trying to make decisions and you really helped her. So that's a good thing.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I do love that. And I think that's the promise. That's what I'm hoping to do with this book and with the work that I'm doing is, I think that it is about self-awareness. And the interesting thing is once you start to see yourself, it's like I said, we're making decisions all the time. All of us have a soul type, and that gives us a decision process, and we're using it every single day, but it's invisible to us, just like walking is invisible to us or breathing is invisible to us. Because we do it all the time, we don't think about it because you've done it since birth. And once you become aware of it, once you see it, you can't unsee it again, right? It's like instant self-awareness. So you start noticing. And I've noticed for myself, like how this information, how I've used it for myself is that, okay, I'm very aware of my process. I'm aware of what I do when it works well. Like when I make a decision I feel great about, I know what that looks like. Mm-hmm. And I know when I'm doing it wrong. I know when I've taken a misstep and I'm taking the steps that I know are going to lead me to feeling bad about my choice. And I can take corrective action. So it's about seeing yourself. And what's really interesting is that once you see yourself, once you understand the book, it's extremely easy to see other people at the same time. So understanding other people's soul type, that quiz that I just read with that one with 3 questions.
Right.
It's so easy to learn that I can walk into any cocktail party now and I know everybody's soul type.
Wait. Do you have 3 different questions for each soul type, or do you have?
Yeah. So it's a flow chart. So when you work your way through, so if I laid this out, and did it as a standard, fill in the bubble type of thing, it would be 5 pages. But because I did it as a flowchart, you only have 3 questions. It's a way of making it a lot more efficient. But because it's just those 3 questions, when you look at it, it's really easy to ask yourself those questions about the people in your family, to ask them about your boss. You know, you can, and they're simple. Like you can observe when you go to lunch with someone, do they make their decision quickly or slowly? So you already right there, you've narrowed it down to it's going to be one of 3.5. So it's really easy to use this to understand other people.
Right. Then you narrow it down the second question, then you're down to 1.
Right. Right. Exactly.
I get it.
Exactly.
Okay. So now, do you do workshops and things like that too? Do you do one-on-one? What are you out? I know you're out there. You've got a website, Undoubtedly Awesome, which is awesome. But
Yeah. Right now, like I said, I'm leading this group through Wisdom Soup. I will be offering a workshop that's more specific to the content that's in this book and going deeper on it. There's layers and layers to this, you can imagine. And it goes pretty deep. But I don't have a date set yet for when that will start. But so I will offer a workshop to help people who want to work with me more deeply. But I'm not doing one-on-ones anymore. I used to do that when I was doing the executive coaching, but now I'm finding that I want to be working more in groups. But Wisdom Soup is a great way to start. And there is, like I said, month by month in Wisdom Soup, we focus on different subjects. And one of the months is my book. So we're going to be talking about gratitude, happiness, doubt, all of these topics they're all related. And we'll be going pretty deep into those.
They are actually all related because, doubt and fear and all of that. And it's an interesting thing because when I read your book, I remembered, my daughter was at UC Berkeley when she started doing this, and all of a sudden she started, whenever she'd say there's that kind of rote, love you, bye, kind of thing at the end of and our conversations grew shorter and shorter through every year of school, every year of college especially. And then when she got to the University of Pennsylvania Law School, she's like, I can't talk to you at all anymore because I'm just too.
Oh,
but this was her sign-off line all of a sudden, and it started in college. It was, make good choices, love you, bye. And I was like, where did that come from? I don't know if it was just a sign of the times or what. And I never said a word because I thought if I brought it up, she'd stop saying it. And the more you say it, the better it is because it reminds not me to make good choices, although it can. But when you say things, it reminds you to do it too. And I thought, that's good. Yes. That's good. Make good choices.
That's a very good thing.
Make good choices. I was like, I like that. I'm not saying anything. Because then she won't.
Right.
Yeah. And it's true. Because our choices, our decisions sort of form our life. And I know that some of us even have made not so wise decisions. Me. But you know what? They got me where I am too. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They did guide me through some things. So, I've wondered along the way, but at least I thought to myself, because there is a quote in here, I don't remember who it is, but it says the worst thing the best thing you could do is make a decision. The worst thing you could do is make the wrong decision. I'm paraphrasing, but the really worst thing you could do is make no decision. Who was that?
Right, to do nothing. Yeah,
to do nothing.
Right, no, that was it was in there.
Yeah,
I love that quote because it's so true.
It's true.
And so often is and at least when you make a wrong decision, you learn from it, right?
Well, that's why I think it was Theodore Roosevelt. I really do, but I paraphrased it. But it's like the worst decision you could ever make is to not make one, do nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also remember, I've always remembered this. William Shakespeare said, "Our doubts are our traitors." And there's a little bit more to the quote. And again, I'm paraphrasing, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's like it stops you from doing what you could, fearing you fear to even attempt because the doubts creep in, and then you just don't do anything, And
right.
And that's hard,
It's really easy to sort of stay. It's easy to stay in your little, what's safe, in your comfort zone. It's really easy to stay there, but your whole life can go by. And, it's at that point, it's sort of like, well, what if you have never tried, so you've never failed, but you've never risked anything, and you haven't accomplished it anyway. So you might as well have tried and failed. You're at the same place as you would have been.
Right. Well, exactly.
You know what I mean?
I know. I have a client who kind of can't open his heart up again and really commit to another relationship, which is a shame because now he's in his mid 60s. And he's gone through a couple of really bad divorces, but that's it. I mean, you don't have to get married again, but you could live with somebody. You could, but that's not going to happen. At least not now. You know, maybe, and that's a shame because there's so much doubt and so much fear of what could happen. Yeah. Just like your stepson was playing that little game years ago.
Yeah.
Well, what if, you know? And I'm like, you could drive yourself nuts doing that, you know? It's like,
what would happen if?
Yeah. What would happen if? Yeah. I read it a while ago.
What would happen if I stuck my finger in that electrical socket? Right.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, yeah, but the decision it's all kind of it is all interconnected because it's like Mark Twain said, I've had millions or thousands or hundreds of worries, most of which never happened. Something along those lines. Yes. I keep paraphrasing because I'm too old, can't remember these quotes, but it's true. You have to step out of that. So this is a really good roadmap. I encourage people out there to get it, to show you how to step out of doubt. And more importantly, how to get into flow, because when you are in flow, the decisions don't even feel like decisions, actually. You're just being guided more or less then, right?
Yeah, very true. Where it just feels like the next step. It's sort of like when you're in that feeling of flow and you know, imagine you're heading off to work in the morning and you hit every green light and you show up at your meeting and the information that you needed, the person happens to be sitting right next to you, and, you know, you go to the grocery store afterwards and you get the front parking spot, and it's just, there's no friction, there's no resistance, you know, with that experience of flow. So when it comes to making a choice, then again, there's no friction. There's none of that feeling of going back and forth. What should I do? Is you feel confident. You feel you're directing all of your energy in the direction of that choice. So it's the absence of friction, and it feels great, right? It feels the absence of resistance. It really it feels like it's easy.
Well, and okay, how much of that, Anne, is faith?
You know, it's such a funny thing. Like I had a good conversation with someone the other day about faith, and is faith like in terms of when you're committing to a choice, how much faith is required. And you know, I think that faith is hard for a lot of people, right? People struggle with the idea of faith sometimes. Right. And one of the person I was talking to, she had just written a book about the concept of maybe, and the idea of opening it up and saying, well, maybe, what if? You know, what if rather than plunging all the way and believing, if you just open the door to maybe and just say, well, what would happen? Maybe it could be this way, and leaving the door open to the possibility of it, and then taking action on that maybe, and then seeing it unfold. Is that sometimes to get moving in the right direction, to begin the feeling of flow, is you have to just start. And, you know, looking at your own process. So in terms of where a person is going to struggle in terms of making a commitment or making a choice, it's going to vary soul type by soul type. Some people are going to really feel the pinch. They're going to feel more doubt and feel more struggle at the beginning of a decision. Other people, like our caller who called in, is going to feel it more at the end of a decision in the form of regret or dissatisfaction. But if you're feeling it on the front end and you're really struggling with that idea of faith, or how do I trust? How do I know? How do I have that inner knowingness? And, you know, sometimes in terms of taking that leap is maybe this idea of opening it up and saying maybe you don't have to fully believe it immediately. Start walking and allow the faith to come. Allow the flow to come.
Right. Go through the door. Open the door. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I believe that. Well, so like I said, and I didn't even get to like 97 questions here, so we may have to have you back. Maybe that's a good idea.
Sounds great.
You know, what I'd love to have you back on? I would love to have you back to discuss wisdom soup, too.
Sounds great.
You know, I think that would be awesome because we only touched on that and we talked about the book.
Yeah.
So, what month are you doing whenever you're going to do the wisdom soup on your book? That's the time we should have you back. So let me know.
Sounds perfect. That'd be really fun.
Okay, again, it's Ann Tucker, ANNE. And Tucker is just TUCKER. It's Undoubtedly Awesome, your own personal roadmap from doubt to flow. And you have a website called undoubtedlyawesome.com, correct?
Yes, exactly. And that's where the survey is. They can take if they want to know their soul type. So it's at undoubtedlyawesome.com.
Okay. And then wisdomsoup.com. Right?
Yes, wisdomsoup.com. And if you go to the homepage of wisdomsoup.com, there's more information about the 5-step process to speed up serendipity. It takes you through it, and it's a really fantastic program and a lot of fun too. So, and people are experiencing amazing growth going through this. So definitely check it out. And it's an amazing bargain, by the way. It's $9.99 a month, and you're getting, group energy healings. You're getting calls with, well-known authors. There's so much richness in the content. So it's a pretty amazing deal.
Right. Is this your baby, Wisdom Soup? Yours and yours alone?
It is.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to go on there and check it out. So I really will.
Awesome.
Is there also an AnnTucker.com or no?
It's not fully developed yet, so I need to do that because I've got a lot of articles and things out there that need a home. So that's on my to-do list, is to get my own website up and running. I've just been focused on these other things.
Oh, trust me, I know. there's only so much you can do in one day. But you know what? It'll be up and running when it's supposed to be up and running. And meanwhile, people can find you anyway. They can find you at undoubtedlyawesome.com. And your Wisdom Soup is a great website as well. So I know that there's a lot of information about you out there. They can find it if they want to. And I really have to thank you for calling in tonight. I so appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us. And you will be back. So I know I'm not saying goodbye. We'll just say see you later. Okay?
Sounds great. Thank you so much. It's been so much fun.
You take care. Take care. Good night.
You too. Thanks. Bye-bye.
That was a great show, everybody, wasn't it? We had fun. There's so much information in this book. I do believe that. There's, and a lot you can learn. So if you want more information, undoubtedlyawesome.com on our website. You could get it at Amazon and all those places too. I have another caller calling in. I'm not sure why. Hello?
Hi, Servet. It's Ann. Sorry, we got disconnected all of a sudden. I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. No problem. I'm still on live. I'm wrapping up, and that's why they probably disconnected you without you realizing it. Thank you again, and you're welcome, and we'll have you back. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Great show. Okay, so we have my website, ServetHassan.com, ServetHassan.com. You can always email me at servet@servethassan.com. My website has all the information about my private consultations and blogs and things like that. I've slowed down a little bit because of the summer. I'll be back with a workshop in September. I will be traveling, but they're kind of private little sessions I'm doing now for corporations for corporate. I'm teaching some mindfulness seminars, so that's kind of got me off the grid a little bit. But I'll be back, and I will come back stronger and better with a lot of new things in the fall. Different blogs, different projects I'll be working on. So I'll keep you in touch. And if you need anything in the meantime, go to my website. Like I said, ServetHassan.com. Next week, I have Francis Greenspan, who knows all about the animals. And we're going to be talking about how animals help us heal, because I actually read a study where the sound of a cat's purr is the exact same frequency that helps people's bodies heal. And I just got really fascinated by that, and that cats heal you physically, but dogs heal you emotionally. So I got really excited about that and decided to have Francis back on the show next Sunday. So hope you join me then. And remember, be you to the full, because that's what's really beautiful. That's what gets you in the flow. That's what makes your life happen. Stay beautiful. Be you to the full. I love you all. I'll talk to you next week. Take care. Good night.